Hi everybody, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another book talk video. It's been a while. I hope that you had a good Christmas, good New Year, all that stuff. We're practically snowed in, almost snowed in over here, have quite a bit of ice. So I decided to bring you a little cozy fireplace right here. As you can see, I made this myself. I chopped down the wood, brought in the kindling, all that stuff. Yeah. Anyway, I decided that since we haven't done a book talk video for a little while, since before the holiday, that I would combine the book talk with a tag that I found on YouTube called the Past, Present, Future book tag. I'm not exactly sure who started this idea. I was only able to find one video example of it on YouTube. There may be others, I'm not sure. I think it was begun on a different social media app. It was a short because the video I found was a short. But I decided to combine that into a book talk because otherwise the video I don't think would be that interesting in terms of the ones that I typically do. So this is going to be a triple feature, and the prompts are simply to show 3 books: the one that you just finished reading, the one that you're currently reading, and the one that you intend to read once you're done with the second book. So let's take a look. I'm also using a different video editor for this particular video, so let me know how it looks when I post it. So the book that I just finished, and I think I mentioned this on Instagram before everything went haywire. If you follow me on Instagram, then you already know what happened, is the book by Robert Curran with Jack and Janet Smurl and Lorraine Warren, The Haunting: One Family's Nightmare. This was also one of the books that I got in the first unboxing video that I got. I believe that this is a first edition. I finished this, I think it was maybe a couple of weeks before Christmas. I had started it in November or maybe late October, and I wanted to finish it before the holidays so I could move on to something else. I really liked the way that Robert Curran writes. I think it's also helpful because he's very honest. At the very beginning, there is an author's note, and he's honest about the alterations that he did, the little bit of poetic license that he took with the book, and certain aspects or certain instances of paranormal activity, but he was very upfront about a few things having been altered, but the story itself being true. But he didn't try to say that everything happened exactly as he portrays it. Some conversations were embellished, but it was minor things that if you're writing a book, speaking from personal experience as a creative writer, you do have to take some license in order to maintain the consistency that is going to make it reader friendly. I'll give you an example of the typeface right here. And there are photos in it from the investigation. Also, I didn't know that much about the Smurl case prior to reading this book. The Smurl family lived in an old duplex. It would probably be classified technically, because of the age, as a historic home that was divided up into two. It was a duplex. Jack and Janet lived on one side, and Jack's mother and father lived on the other. And apparently that building had had odd stories associated with it for years. And they also give a probable explanation for why there were so many issues and why it was so difficult to resolve them. Let's see. And he also goes into some of the history of the area, the coal mining, the immigrants, mostly Irish immigrant families, and all the hard times that they went through. So it gives you a feel for some of the energy of the land, the location. And I think you also get a pretty balanced view of life in terms of the history of the place. It's not all, if you know anything about Irish immigrant history, which I do know some because that's part of my family history on my mother's side, it can be pretty doom and gloom. It gets pretty dark here and there, and kind of depressing because of all the things that they went through. But it's not all depressing. He provides, I would say, a very measured view of not just the hard times, but also all the good that came out of it. The family values, the strengthening of community ties, the sense of community that came in part from having to go through so much. So I really liked it. And I liked the way that he was very respectful of the family, because they did collaborate with him on this, so they approved it. Because I think a lot of, particularly nowadays, I don't read an awful lot of at least contemporary paranormal literature. But what I have read, I don't feel that it's necessarily, not everybody seems to be particularly respectful of any of the living people who are going through something, the spirits, particularly the human spirits who may or may not be entirely responsible for whatever is going on, the history of the place, other people who may be affected by the attention that these things tend to draw. So I liked that he was very respectful of all the parties involved. Prompt number 2, the book that I'm currently reading, and I had to hurry up and do this video because I'm very nearly at the end, is this little volume of selected poems by Robert Frost. I picked this up at the library last summer, I believe. Behold the gilding. Well, it's silver. Is there a different word for silver? Gilding? I'm not sure. I'll have to look it up. And I like the softness of the cover. And you can feel some of the detail of the birch trees. The silver feels different from the blue. The blue feels different from the actual cover material itself, faux leather cover itself. I have never actually read a book of Robert Frost's poetry. I did learn some of it when I was in school, but I haven't read a book solely, a compilation solely of his work. I did learn The Road Not Taken. Well, I think I learned part of The Road Not Taken. It's been a while. It was nice to read that again. That's one of my favorites of his. I think it's probably pretty much everybody's favorite, or at least one of them. And it does have a table of contents. Somebody tell me why publishers don't put table of contents in most of their books anymore. Have you noticed that? Am I the only one who has an issue with it? Didn't think so. Yeah, I didn't think so. I remember reading, I feel like I read Death of a Hired Man before. It has short stories in it. It's not just, the title is a little bit misleading because it says selected poems, but some of these are also short stories, lyrical short stories. So I vaguely remember having read Death of a Hired Man before. I feel like I did. I'm pretty sure that I did. Because it was kind of sad, but very human. This is published by Fall River Press. I'll give you an example of, I'll show you the first part of the table of contents. I think that's going to show up all right. And I'll give you an idea of the typeface. I always find examples of typeface to be helpful. That's why I show up, show them to people. Because if you're somebody who doesn't like smaller type, or if you have an issue with black on stark white, or you prefer to have black type on like more of a cream, softer cream color, so it's easier on the eyes, and that can be helpful. So you may be able to find something similar to this that has a little bit of a different look. Maybe it's large print. I haven't looked for any of his poems in large print. I might eventually, but this is the first copy of his work that I've owned outside of what was printed in textbooks, like I said. I picked this up again at Barnes & Noble for, you can find them pretty much at any Barnes & Noble, I think. They are, I want to say, $8, $10 maybe. I'm not 100% sure, it's been a while. But if you wanted something that was a quick, easy read, this is similar to the book of, where is it? I think it's up here. Yeah, it's out of frame. The Irish fairy tales, the book of Irish fairy tales that I featured in a previous video. I think that was the last book talk video that I did. And this was in the same section of Barnes & Noble as them. I'm not sure who else carries this volume, because the only local bookseller, well, not local bookseller, the only bookstore that I have in the area is Barnes & Noble. I don't have small independent bookstores where I live. I'm not even sure that there may be one in the next town over. I'm not sure, but the point is I would have to travel quite a bit further in order to find one. So that's the reason why I bring up Barnes & Noble, and Barnes & Noble is accessible to pretty much anybody. So if you did want to get a copy of this new, you might be able to find it secondhand. I haven't looked. They're not that expensive, and you get edging. Yay. And the third and final prompt, which is the book that I'm going to be reading next, is, well, actually, I'm going to be rereading this because I haven't touched it in quite a while. Is going to be Daphne du Maurier's Rebecca. This is the volume that was published by Franklin Mystery, or at least it was part of a collection from Franklin Mystery. Behold the cover. Now, I picked this up 20-some years ago. It was being sold by the original library that we used to go to in a different state. See the boat? If you've read this, you know the significance of the boat. Here's the back. I already have a bookmark in it so that I can start it. It was being sold by that library. I don't remember how much, but it was on a table with a bunch of other volumes that they were selling for quite literally a few dollars. So I do recommend, if you have a library that periodically sells old, well, not necessarily old, but material that they can't use anymore, or things that they just don't have room for anymore, support those places. If you don't want to just frequent mass market booksellers like Barnes & Noble, not that there's anything wrong with that, but I know a lot of readers like finding interesting books in out-of-the-way places. I'll show you the part of the inside cover. I think I'll show you the back cover. The back cover might be a little bit nicer. Yes. Look at that. I love the red. I love the red. Red on gray is really, really nice too. And gilding, which is not really showing up that well as far as I can see on this camera, but that's okay. It is older. You can definitely tell that it was red. So the typeface. This is a large book. I used to read it quite often because it was one of my favorites, and I'm pretty sure I own a copy of the adaptation with, I want to say it was Laurence Olivier. I'm probably getting that wrong. And another famous actress whose name escapes me now. It's the one that was done in the 40s. But if you haven't seen that and compared it to the book, personally I really liked it because they carbon copied many of the scenes from the book, which is what an adaptation is supposed to be. In my personal opinion, that is how you adapt source material. Good source material. So I'm definitely going to be rereading this. I kind of got on a kick with the Mouse of Amherst. I got on a little bit of a kick of rereading some of my favorite books, and this is definitely one of my favorite books. I would say it's probably, this is definitely, if it's not the book that got me into classic literature, it's definitely one of the two. I think before I read Rebecca, I read Jane Eyre. I think Jane Eyre was the very first. I might be wrong. I think I got them around the same time, so I'm not exactly sure which one I read first. It was probably this one because of the cover. Because who wouldn't want a cover like that? You gotta open it up and see what's inside when it looks that pretty. So, and then it also has birds flying over the water. So those are the books that I'm going to be reading. The one that I'm going to finish, the one I'm going to read next, and the past book that I just recently finished. So, and you can enjoy by proxy, virtually, my little fireplace that I worked very hard to build myself, just for you. So, I hope you're having a good January. I hope that you have a blessed 2025, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.